Thank you very much. Normally, I'm not used to speak before the minister. I like to join the minister afterwards to give some contradiction or some additional comments. In this case, I have to do it for a premiere. We'll do it for the first time and speak in front of him. What I really would like to say before we talk about the venture capital industry in Europe and Greece in particular, I would like to really look at Greece, I would think, with a moderate confidence and optimism when looking into 2014. I've been seeing banks, I've been seeing investment managers, companies, and I get the flavor that there is at least there's some light at the end of the tunnel. But this came at a very high cost, and I guess it's the right time to thank you all, to thank the government, to appreciate the work the institutions have done, to thank the Greek people, to have worked over the last 6 years in order to turn around, which was almost an impossible situation. And I guess this restructuring and repair of a struggling economy, which we see is going to bring first fruits, I would reckon, certainly in 2014, and I do hope that our venture capital funds will contribute to this. The 6 years of hard work, I guess, indeed will pay off as the economy is restructuring itself, as the public environment is restructuring itself. Now, for us, the big question is, what can we do in order to support the uptake? What can be done in order to indeed find new boundaries? It's enough after 6 years to look back and restructure and to reorganize. It's about where are the engine of growth in the future. And we strongly believe in the European Investment Fund, the engine of growth, not only in Greece but throughout Europe, are indeed the small and medium enterprises and companies up to 500 employees. Why do we believe that? Because if you look at statistics, it's about 85% of net employment creation comes out of small and medium enterprises in Europe. And now if you look at Greece, Greece is indeed leading the SME Europe League. You have indeed more SMEs than any other economy in Europe. And I guess the contribution of those SMEs is much higher than in other countries. So the framework is still very solid. Those SMEs who have made it through the last 6 years indeed are the powerhouse of tomorrow and the engine of tomorrow. At this point, Minister, welcome. But at the same time, these SMEs struggle heavily under the severe pressure of access to finance. Access to finance, we believe, is the biggest single problem for SMEs, and unfortunately, more critical here in Greece. Therefore, we have to think in alternatives. And with the support of the Hellenic Republic, with the Jeremy funds, with structural funds, I guess we have shown and we are showing on a day-by-day basis that the creation of alternative sources of finance is possible. It's possible if you do it in a systematic way. I believe that the venture capital funds which we are sponsoring as anchor investors are a good starting point to develop these alternative sources of finance. Because if you look in Europe right now still, 80% of SMEs are financed by banks. So the bank financing is 80%. Whilst in America, it's the other way around. It's 20% bank financing and 80% other means, primarily equity. And this is what we have to achieve. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. And if we can balance these sources of finance over the years to come, it's a big achievement. And this is what we have to achieve, in particular here in Greece. Besides the venture capital, we also believe as the EIF, we need jointly to develop a mezzanine market. Why? Because SMEs and mid-caps, they are normally family-owned. We have a big resistance of giving up shares and stakeholdings in companies. And mezzanine funds, hybrid instruments, do help indeed the existing shareholders and the existing management without diluting the shareholding. So I guess as one of the ways going forward, I would like to see mezzanine hybrid funds to be developed as the economy is going to pick up. Now let me talk very briefly about the venture capital in Europe. I mean, we have seen up and downs. Back in 2008, obviously we saw a big crash. Everybody moved out of this particular asset class. And indeed, the banks have not come back to this asset class neither, and I would not imagine this to happen over the next years to come. Then we saw a rebounding in 2010, so to speak, as a second dip, and it crashed down again in 2012. The levels of 2013 are still very depressing. But what we have seen in the absence of the banks, we have seen new investors coming in, primarily family offices, business angels, are starting to invest more and more in this asset class. On the other hand, and this is not as positive, but at the same time critical in order to keep the industry floating, the public investors like the EIF are indeed accounting for approximately 40% of the market today. This is not healthy, we know that, but it is the only way to keep the industry floating until the market is picking up again. So right now we do have a situation where public investors, where governments, public agencies, IFIs are indeed with about 40% supporting the European venture capital market, and I do hope this will come down very sharply. To give you a figure, the European Investment Fund will commit only this year 1.5 billion in new commitments throughout Europe. It's an enormous figure. And as I said, I hope this is turning over the years to come. When it comes to Greece, and I'm really grateful to the government representatives that we were entrusted what we call Jeremy. Because with Jeremy, we were able to show, not only in Greece but also elsewhere, that structural funds can be used in a much more efficient and professional way than by just spending grants. But to engineer products around it, financial instruments around it, which invite private investors to join us in our journey to support SMEs. Now we have done this when looking at the lending market. We have developed what we call a funded risk-sharing product, which was later also developed by a public agency, ATN, here in Greece, very successfully. We have supported by this scheme 1,600 companies at very favorable lending rates at a saving of about 3 to up to 5% per annum. And on the other hand, we were able to develop this equity market. We were able to review, to analyze a number of very, very good proposals, which Jorge has already pointed out. And we have selected 4 funds for early stage, 2 early stage and 2 seed funds in the ICT sector, which are translating a policy into reality, an ICT policy into reality. Now, our vision for the 4 funds is obviously to promote innovation, to support entrepreneurship, and to enhance the expansion of successful technologies in Greece. And I guess, again, yesterday when I met the fund manager, I saw not only in their eyes but also in their words that this is indeed happening. There's really real entrepreneurship, there's innovation, there is expansion and a real global view of how to develop this market. We as the EIF, we are not only contributing obviously money, but what we call smart money. We contribute with knowledge, with expertise and international networks. And I guess this is very important in order to establish a venture capital ecosystem. To talk briefly about the 4 funds, because you might think, what must have happened to the EIF to have selected 4 funds at the same time and sent them in the race at the very same time in very difficult environments to fundraise in 2012 when we were faced with an enormous economic downturn, liquidity constraints in the market. Now, this has not been our choice. The real answer is we are working with structural funds, and these funds have to be invested by the end of 2015. So we were, against our own belief, forced to create a structure which allows us to capture the market on one hand and still absorb the funds by 2015. And I guess the professionalism of these 4 teams indeed will show us that we can achieve this enormous ambitious goal. With Open Fund, and we will see them later on the podium here, I guess we have found a very enthusiastic young team which has made its name already in the main streets here in Athens and overall in Greece with the Open Coffee, which is, I guess, a very successful concept. It has created a very strong network of startup entrepreneurs together with innovators, with researchers, and is really cultivating a culture of innovation here. With Piraeus Technology Catalyst Fund and Elikonos, we combine a significant experience of local and international track record, both in the field of entrepreneurship but also IT. And with Odyssey, we have a truly international team selected, which works 24 hours, literally, for us, on one hand in Silicon Valley, on the other hand here in Athens. All these 4 teams, as I said, we will hear later on, and they have exciting stories to tell. Before I close, I would like to pay my gratitude and to thank, in particular, Minister Hatzidakis and his team for the good cooperation, for the trust which we have built up over the time, for the joint successes we were able to create, and I hope we will further develop. And I do believe that this is indeed the basis of a long-lasting relationship in favor and in support of SMEs in Greece and entrepreneurship in Greece. Thank you very much.